I found a better way to program drums. Is it faster? No. Is it easier? No. Is it a whole lot more fun than drawing in notes on a piano roll with a mouse and keyboard? Oh, you bet your ass it is. If you're in a metal band, you're probably familiar with programming drums, aka Midi drums. These are basically where you sequence a drum performance in your computer or dedicated MIDI sequencer. This is how you get drum sounds on your recordings without spending a bunch of money recording real drums in a studio. I am so incredibly old that I started this audio journey back in the days when programming drums meant using a drum machine. Drum machines typically will make any metal band sound pretty much like an industrial band, so I didn't really want that, so I wanted real drums, so I bought real drums and learned how to play them and how to record them, and that's how I got drums on my early recordings. And then suddenly I found out about a product called Drum Kit from Hell made by a little company called TuneTrack. It was a bunch of drum samples that came on a CD-ROM, which if you're not familiar with a CD-ROM, it's basically like a PlayStation or Xbox game disc, but it's like, it doesn't hold as much stuff and it's meant for a computer. Anyway, it's not important. Anyway, this kit was amazing because it finally allowed you to have realistic sounding drums. I mean, maybe it wasn't the first one. It's definitely the first one I was aware of with that level of realism, and I love that thing. But the thing was, like, I would still go through all of the trouble of recording real drums. Anything that wasn't a demo, I'd want real drums on just because, like, who wants fake ass drums on their fucking record, dude? Not me, not this guy. I want real drums. But, you know, whatever. That was back in the fucking early 2000s. Shit was different, man. But then things started to change in the industry. Technology got better and recording budgets got smaller. Suddenly, bands were using programmed drums on their records, and it was getting harder and harder to tell them apart from real drums. As that line began to blur, there kind of became a shift where suddenly it was perfectly acceptable to use programmed drums on an actual record. It's totally fine. Happens all the fucking time now. I'd just like to take a minute to say for the record that pretty much everyone prefers real drums if time and money are no factor. This isn't meant to say that programmed drums are better by any means, but real drums are hard and expensive to record, and programmed drums have certain advantages over real drums. For example, with most drum samplers, you have complete control over cymbal bleed, which is often a major problem when recording real drums. While I love keeping some bleed in the mix, the ability to simply turn it down with a knob is amazing. I've invested so much into drum samplers and just getting accustomed to using the workflow that basically all of my productions use MIDI drums in some degree, even if I have real drums sent to me. The advantages are just too hard to ignore. Even if you have a real drummer with great drums and great technique, sometimes the recording situation can be less than ideal, and you end up with sounds that are much worse than if you had just programmed drums in the first place. Typically in these situations, I convert literally every drum hit in the entire song into a MIDI note that can trigger samples. This way I have the best of both worlds. The convenience of MIDI drums in a mix with the real human feel and timing of a human drummer. This brings us to the main point of this video. Sometimes we want a bit of that real feel of a human drummer, but we don't really have the time or the budget to record real drums. So if we're turning to MIDI drums or programming drums, there are a few different levels, I would say, that you can work with. Level 1. Mouse, keyboard, and piano roll. This is the fastest method for getting ideas down, but creating realistic sounding performances can get super tedious. Velocity adjustments are the key to realistic drum MIDI. If you're ignoring it, your MIDI drums are just not going to sound very good, sorry. If this is too tedious for you, you can try the next level. Level 2, get a MIDI controller. This is kind of a middle ground between programming and using an electronic drum kit. The advantages here are that 1, you don't need to know how to play drums, and 2, you'll be able to play your velocity variations rather than making educated guesses. Disadvantages are that 1, you'll probably need to clean up and quantize your performance afterwards, which adds a bit of extra work, and 2, finger drumming is a skill. It might be easier than real drums, but there's still a bit of a learning curve involved. And a third disadvantage is you have to buy a MIDI controller if you don't already have one. Level 3, get a MIDI controller / drum pad that you can play with sticks. This makes things quite a bit more fun, but it also costs quite a bit more. You're also limited if you don't have any pedals because you're only working with 2 limbs instead of 4 like most drummers have. I said most. This brings us to level 4, where you use kick pedals and triggers in conjunction with a drum pad to record MIDI performances. Advantages are that it's way more fun than any other methods that we've listed in this video. I can play my parts and operate on instinct rather than calculating everything and drawing it in by hand. Now, obviously, there are some disadvantages here. One, you kind of need to know how to play drums, or at least be willing to, learn the basics. I haven't played drums regularly in over 15 years, so I wouldn't really call myself a drummer per se, but I do have experience behind the kit, and that definitely helps out. It's also way more expensive than any of the other methods because you need to buy more stuff. I'm incredibly partial to Axis pedals because that's what I used to use back in the day. But they're not cheap, so I found a couple of used pedals, which still cost me $400 to score. Another disadvantage of this method is that you still have to clean up your drum performances, especially if you're like me and you're not really that great of a drummer. But man, it's so much more fun, and everything has like an entirely new energy compared to like if I just programmed everything. The biggest advantage to me is just it just feels more like a drummer. Level 5 is the next level. That would be an actual electronic drum kit, but I don't have room for one of those here. You can probably tell this room is not very big, as you can see. It's not very big. If I put a drum kit in here, electronic or otherwise, I won't have room to walk. So I have this little guy, and it's kind of like a little hybrid kit. And I mean, it's all that I need for now. It's a small room. If I end up in a bigger room, then I'll probably expand on this thing, but that's really all I need. Okay, bonus level is level 6. I mentioned this briefly in another video, which I will link to somewhere. Probably in the description. That's probably where it's going to be. MIDI packs, man. These are going to be the cheapest thing next to not buying anything and just programming everything the old-fashioned way with the mouse and keyboard. A MIDI pack is a MIDI performance that was recorded by a real drummer on an electronic kit most often, and then you can use that in your own productions. One caveat is that I highly recommend buying MIDI packs that are made for your drum sampler. So I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering, so does this mean that you're going to literally play everything on your, you're going to literally play everything? Fuck no, dude. I'm going to cheat like a motherfucker, dude. I'm not a fucking badass I cheat on guitar too. I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna dedicate my entire life to becoming like the baddest fucking drummer ever. So that means I've got certain limitations to work within, and that means I'll be cleaning up some stuff. It's fine, dude. I'm not worried about it at all. Yes, I'm gonna cheat on these drum recordings. It's fine. I am gonna show you some stuff though that where I'm not cheating. This is gonna be sloppy as fuck because, like I said, I haven't really played drums regularly in 15 years. I just bought these I think last week. So I haven't really had a whole lot of time. I just set this little thing up the other day. So let's have some fun with some stuff that I programmed the old-fashioned way. Let's see if I can play that on the pedals here, as rusty as I am. Let's see what happens. Come on, let's go over here. Oops, snacks, and thanks. All right, let's see if I could nail some of these things. Next. Ooh, I'm gonna try to do that with doubles. Probably not gonna work. Nah. much dynamics there. There we go. That's not happening. Yeah, that's not happening. All right, I guess I gave it a good fucking run, you know. So yeah, I've got some practicing to do for sure, but you know, I'm having fun, so this is cool. I'm stoked about it. So I've got a Patreon if you want to support some weird shenanigans videos like this and like these and whatnot. I'd super appreciate it. That's also a way to, if you're looking for one-on-one coaching, check out my Patreon. You can do a one-on-one coaching thing with me if that's, you know, kind of something you're looking for. So feel free to check that out. Link in the description and whatnot, whatever. Subscribe and stuff or whatnot. Click a bell. What am I supposed to say? Subscribe, click a bell, and a like button. Smash the like button. I think it's the thing that you say. Smash it. Okay, see you later.